Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast, episode 169. It's going to be an exciting one recorded before the elections or before President Biden was sworn in, but after elections, with Sophie Alcorn, a host of Immigration Law for Tech Startups, fellow colleague up in Northern California who's doing great work. And you get a lot of education from the stuff she has on her podcast, but also she drops some really key hints and tools and tips in this. Please listen to the end. It's really going to help you out, especially if you have a business-based immigration practice. But before getting started, I want to thank everyone who's listening. A lot of people have been reaching out, and I really appreciate it. As I always say, I'm a guy sitting alone in the room, knowing that you're there, reaching out, just saying listen, helps me a lot. So I want to thank all the fans and listeners who are doing that. If you haven't already, just leave a 5-star wherever you're listening, like on iTunes or YouTube, wherever it is, watching or listening. Please leave a 5-star and a comment review to let others know what kind of information and what kind of help we have on this podcast. I also want to thank our beloved sponsor, DocketWise, who has been so kind and gracious to support the podcast with their great software for case management and all that kind of stuff. And interesting thing is how much they update things. They're constantly bringing out new additions. They're going to probably take over the world with the stuff they're constantly posting. Like recently, they just added intakes for Russian, Chinese, Arabic, Hindi. They also do obviously English and Portuguese and French and Spanish. They had those. It's just really taking over. It's a very powerful software, DocketWise. If you want to get 10% off their annual plan, additional to what they say, go to www.docketvise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast. And the code is Immigration Lawyers Podcast. If you already have a month-to-month membership, email them, let them know you're a listener, and you want to take advantage of this plan to go from month to month to annual, and you'll do that. And thank them again also for sponsoring the first issue of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. If you want to make sure to get a copy of that, you're not already on one of my listservs, just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com so you can make sure you get a copy, a digital copy of the magazine. I think it's going to help a lot, and it's a game changer too. So thank you to them for supporting and sponsoring that. Now, I have a different training program to help people learn the basics of marriage-based immigration, which is really the basics of immigration when it goes to admissibility, adjustment of status, consular processing, affidavit support, writing the contract, all that kind of stuff, with a twist of the marriage portion, I-130, which also falls into marriage cases, parents cases, sibling cases, children cases, all that touched upon it, but the focus is on marriage. And you get a year's worth of Immigration Lawyers Toolbox library access. So if you're interested in that, send me an email at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com so we can talk about, explain what the program is, and if it's even good for you. If it is, how you can take advantage of it. I think it's a game changer too, because it really just helps people prepare for this tsunami of cases that are going to be coming with President Biden. And so with that, let's get it started. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast, a part of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, an education and marketing publication for the immigration law community that includes legal updates, interviews, discussions, education and CLE material, and more. Note that the information here is for general education only and not intended as individual legal advice. The laws change frequently, so you should consult with an attorney about your specific case. For more information, please visit immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on this episode of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. We have a great guest today, a fellow podcaster, Sophie Alcorn, whose podcast, Immigration Law for Tech Startups, is a really popular one, especially in Northern California in that tech hub. Sophie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome, John. It's so great to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you as well. Now, Sophie did a great interview with our colleague Roman Zelechenko with GMI Rocket, and it went over a lot of her biography and background. So I thought instead of redoing it, definitely listen to that one because I learned a lot. And he had some good tips there about like marketing and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend listening to that. But I just want to jump in and go next level and more nuance just for immigration lawyers, which is most of the audience here.
Great.
So, yeah, I mean, people may know you, may not know you, but let me know about your firm, what kind of size it has, and lawyers, and just like what kind of cases that you handle.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have a firm that's headquartered in Mountain View, California, in Silicon Valley. I started it out of my kitchen in 2015, 2016. With no investment. I bootstrapped it based on my work after having been a stay-at-home mom for 4.5 years and having moved here, so I didn't have a professional network in the Bay Area. And currently the firm has a team of 15, including 6 attorneys and 9 support staff. As we scale, we're planning to grow the number of support staff, but we needed to have an attorney for each of the dedicated areas that we practice.
Mm-hmm.
So our focus is helping technology professionals, including startup founders and investors and highly skilled talent software engineers who work at these companies, plus all of their families. And to that end, we have 3 subdivisions in our law firm. We have a corporate business practice. We have an extraordinary ability-based practice focusing on those intensive writing cases. And then we have a family immigration practice, mostly doing marriage-based adjustments, K-1s, parent AOS, and N-400s. So that's what we do.
How did you, because all of a sudden it's a rapid growth to have a team this big. There's several questions I had about that.
Yeah.
What was the event that triggered like a flood of clients to be able to sustain that larger practice?
My divorce. And me panicking about becoming a single mom and the cost of living in Silicon Valley. And I realized that I needed to spend my time being strategic and focusing on marketing and cultivating relationships and focusing on rainmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that, but I couldn't do that until I learned I was so scared to hire people. It was so freaky. I was not organized about money at that time, and I didn't really have any sense of how I would make it work, or if I could get a return on that investment, or if I could trust somebody. And finally, I just decided to take a blind leap of faith with somebody really smart who seemed eager to help me. And fortunately, like, my intuition served me. I chose well, and that individual has really helped me grow operationally over the years. But I lacked at that time delegating and managerial skills and project management skills. So it was scary because it really was blind faith. And now that I've learned a lot over the past 5 years, hiring is not so scary because I understand how to, break down work into a process, how I can provide components to certain people with deadlines, how I can request, feedback by a certain date, how I'm tracking my own list of what I've delegated to everybody so that I know when it's coming back to me. So as a new firm owner, that was one of my biggest panics. Like, how do I trust people to do this for me? It's so critical. But I had to get over that because of necessity.
Yeah.
And then when I was in that, I realized, I could put in all of this work to have a practice that would generate like $300K a year, and I would probably be a slave to it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could be a little more strategic and have a little more foresight and target focusing on a greater expansion. And with that marginal effort, I could have a lot more freedom ultimately. So I decided, okay, well, as long as I'm not going to be like a solo practitioner doing the bulk of the work myself, why not have a firm that supports my life and goals, which was a new way of thinking about it for me.
I think that's one of the critical points and milestones is when you hit that dollar amount and you're like, either I could keep doing this myself, it's the ceiling, or next level is hiring somebody, which is really stressful with trust and all that. And I definitely constantly have that issue. Did you hire somebody that was fresh off like law school, or someone that was already an immigration attorney?
No, I hired my landlord's daughter who didn't know what she wanted to do after she graduated with her bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And she's wonderful. And we've, grown and built so much over the
It was
last.
the office manager kind of person. What was the title?
Well, she was like a contractor for the first week, and she was helping me do one case. And then a few days in, I was like, oh my gosh, can you be my like receptionist? And then I hired her, and I didn't even have payroll set up for myself at that point. Um, and then she, grew and became assistant and office manager and now operations. So that is possible.
It's good to know. It's not like hiring. Yeah, go ahead.
I would also say that if somebody wants to start an immigration law firm and is sitting on anywhere from $10,000 to $200,000 of their own cash that they would like to invest in this endeavor, there are ways to systematically deploy that capital more effectively from the beginning to hire really talented people right off the bat so that you don't have to go through all those growing pains, right? You can hire people with experience to help you grow who are better at these things than you are and actually get a lot more freedom that way too.
Any examples of hiring? Is this the lawyers or other kind of staff?
Anything like an experienced paralegal from a big law firm who really knows corporate immigration like the back of their hand, an office manager from any type of immigration law firm, maybe an office manager from some other type of like flat fee type of legal area. So here's a big ego thing that I think is hard for a lot of attorneys. Like, what if you hire an attorney who's more experienced than you are? Like, that can be super freaky. But if you are a person who enjoys not only the practice of law, but also the business of law, that's a unique skill set, proclivity, personality type that not everybody identifies with. And so if you're this social butterfly who people know, like, and trust, and let's say, I was like 30 when I did this. And so let's say I had some budget to do this and I'd hired an attorney with, decades more of experience than me. It would have been so easy because I could have just been the salesperson for this other attorney and I wouldn't have had to figure out if every case qualified. I could have asked them to do it and they already knew how to do the cases really efficiently. And I could just be like, oh yeah, you have to hire us because my partner or my associate or whatever, my colleague is so amazing and we can definitely help you. And it's actually a lot easier that way.
That's invaluable advice. I wish I had talked to you when I started even 5 years ago. I started before you, but I just kept it small. But yeah, there's an ego thing involved. There's a fear. There's all this kind of stuff, but it kind of holds you in place, and you can't really grow if you do that. So one thing that you do is you have big corporate clients as well, and you deal with family. Do you ever have the issue where the person you're filing for adjustment is also like the petitioner is one of the companies, and how do you deal with that dual rep situation when it comes up?
Yeah. So we have a lot of specific types of legal agreements and informed consent in writing that we use for that. But actually, I encourage corporate clients, if they have an employee who's saying that they're going to marry a U.S. citizen and they're in love with that person, if the company wants to support that person as a benefit or a perk, I think it's wonderful for them to be a third-party payor for that married couple. And we have that wall between our practice areas, and usually with companies. At the beginning, I had very small startup clients with early stage founders, and I, as a mark of pride, I really prided myself in joint representation of the company and the employee, because I wanted to be fully candid with everybody, be on the same page, not have to hide anything, and fully have everybody's interests at heart. As we've grown, we've had to shift our clients over to a single representation model where we're representing the employer and the employee is acknowledging that they are no longer, or they are not technically our client. Obviously, we owe certain ethical duties to them. But I've spent a lot of time hashing this out with ethics attorneys because I really care about it. I know it's fraught and I want to get clear about it. So anyway, I think it would be lovely if we as immigration practitioners could come together and create some sort of ethical standard for how to navigate this across different jurisdictions.
The reason I ask is it is so difficult. Even in the case of marriage cases, even there's firms that do the affidavit of support for the clients because even for the petitioner sponsor, not let alone a joint sponsor, it puts us in a real difficult position because for employment cases, like my case from Northern California are usually, the beneficiary gets a DUI. They call me up and they say, don't tell the employer. I'm like, this is like, I'm sure you see that a lot. It's the DUIs that happen so frequently.
And we're now, well, I think everybody should do this, but our volume necessitates it as well because I don't know who all of our clients are anymore.
Yeah.
So in order to manage that, kind of weird, unusual in immigration, I think, or it used to be, but just a detailed conflict management check before even having a phone call with a potential new client.
And that's, I was talking to some bigger firms to do that. And, as a small firm, it's not, my volume doesn't really lead to.
Like, who's your employer? Oh, I've never heard of them. Okay, cool. I can talk to you. Yeah.
But is that as complicated as it gets? Or is it like, because it's going to put off some people who call the office and like, well, let me do a conflict check. Like, okay, I'll just go on next.
We just built it into our like intake questionnaire that we make everybody fill out with like, are you involved in any litigation and past employers and past spouses or any active conflict. So
it's so complicated. You think you just call people, you help them out, but that's
I know we go into this work because we just want to help people. We just want to go to the border and save children and we have to pay for lunch and dinner and things and food and
with your podcast and the title, what opportunities do tech sponsors have? Because it's a big issue of people who, our grad schools are coming out. They've made it really difficult because they haven't really designed a good system. It's always workarounds of potentially an H-1B and O-1 maybe. Yeah. They had that one founder visa that Obama tried to put in that didn't happen. What kind of tools do you use in the non-immigrant visa categories to try to help these people?
I mean, you just named it. And I think one of the things that, I had a call with somebody and I was planning, this was last week, I was planning on spending 30 minutes with them to do my whole pitch about why, we can really help them. And 10 minutes into the call, they were like, no, just send me your engagement letter. And I was like, wait, I didn't do my whole song and dance. What are you talking about? And then we just kept chit-chatting for the rest of the time. And then at the end, we closed the call and I was like, well, we're really looking forward to supporting you. He's like, this is going to be great. I can't wait to do my first H-1B. And I'm like, yay.
Wait till they do it. I mean, they just changed the rules again on us last week.
No, and whatever's happening with the lottery and the wage-based allocation, pay to play, essentially, that's going to be really interesting to track because that was actually in Biden's campaign platform that he wants that too. And he swore to undo all the Trump stuff within the first 100 days. But this is one thing that they're in agreement on. So maybe it'll actually happen.
I was talking with another attorney, immigration for the podcast, and they were saying, it's hard to just define people just based on a dollar amount. There's different levels of people, different cultural things they bring. It's hard to just say, okay, you got to make a lot of money, have a lot of education. I think it's good to have a focus on that for just the economy and stuff like that. But like some people want to get rid of a diversity visa and this and that. Having that mix of people is kind of good. And this kind of boxes out a big group of people.
Yeah, it will. And this, there are so many competing interests with
Yeah.
immigration. I mean, I remember being a little kid in the 90s and my dad was talking about IRA and Clinton and EDPA, the
Yeah.
Anti-Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996 or something, and he was freaking out about how it made stuff harder for folks. But I don't know, we keep getting stymied with CIR because it's just this huge omnibus bill and nobody can agree. But then if we tease one thing out, like a startup visa, like that screws the dreamers, and we want to be good to everybody.
Yeah.
Also, nothing's moving forward. So I really hope that in the coming 4 years, we can make some really solid improvements to the system. But I do have something really important for everybody to know, which is an H-1B hack that anybody can do, and it might actually help with this pay-to-play system. It's a little bit more investment for the employer up front, but I've been using it to great success, and I will provide you the link, so you're welcome to put it in the chat window if you want. But there's a nonprofit founded by an ALA member out of Boston. His adult daughter is the executive director. It's called Open Avenues Foundation. They are lovely, and the deal is that they're using the H-1B cap exemption for nonprofits at where the work is at a university, which historically has been used for, like, if you're at a hospital that's affiliated with the university, but the hospital itself is a nonprofit. So they used the system and formulated their own organization. Basically, the foreign national applies to be a Global Talent Fellow at Open Avenues. If they're selected, they then get scheduled to teach a 5-hour-a-week group project via Zoom webinar at a US college that is primarily focusing on helping underserved, diverse US college student populations get access to STEM education and entrepreneurship training. So Open Avenues sponsors their first cap-exempt H-1B any time of year, no lottery, and as soon as the I-797 approval notice is issued, you got to be ready to have your H-1B for the company ready to go for 35 hours a week of concurrent employment. And as soon as you file that, if the beneficiary is in the United States, they get to start working upon filing. So it's a really beautiful way to evade the lottery and support American education and diversity and immigration all at the same time. So I've been using it. I hope more lawyers use it. I think we need more programs like that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them, talk with them too about letting people know it's like a wonderful kind of situation to have to keep them here.
Yeah.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's an interesting workaround.
Danielle Goldman is the executive director there, and she's very accessible. And I'm also, happy to introduce anybody to her.
Awesome. So we have a few minutes left. But what are your goals? I want to see what your goals are in 2021. It's hard to really plan out, especially like this year where so unexpected was down. Your office probably went crazy in October when they had the visa bulletin jump because
we had a surge in Q4, especially post-election, that I'm just so appreciative of, because it was an intense year for everybody. And at the beginning of 2020, my New Year's resolution was that I wanted it to be my year of creativity. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'll take piano and voice lessons and do some art. And then, I need to be really creative in my business and other endeavors to go through the year, but we did it. We're stronger than ever and ready to grow more now. And this year, my personal New Year's resolution is that I want this to be the year of fun. So I want everything to be fun. And if it's not fun, I'm going to ask myself, okay, how can I be more fun to make this thing that I have to do more fun? And if I do that and it's still really not fun, well, I'm just not going to do it anymore because life is short and my time is valuable. So year of fun. And on the business side, that translates to, like different marketing projects that I'm interested in, and developing partnerships with other types of organizations and other industries. And whenever we can travel again, I love going and giving talks and going to conferences. And everybody should have a virtual assistant. It's something you can do. They can check your email. They can draft emails for you. They can send emails on your behalf. They can run your calendar. It's a beautiful thing. And I think immigration lawyers are so harried because many people are drawn to the profession from love and compassion and a desire to serve. And that can like shoot us in the foot sometimes if we give too much. So it can be good to prioritize ourselves a little bit, because the work we're doing is really life-changing. So
yeah, immigration lawyers don't come at it many times with a business mindset. The practice is it's an emotional practice. How did your dad, because your dad was doing it for a long time, how did he maintain it? And was he a solo, or did he have like a big operation?
He had about 12 people at the height of the .com bubble. And he really loved being a lawyer's lawyer. Like, he loved helping the E2 investor with the restaurant, and then popping over to court and doing a cancellation of removal trial, and then going to like a VAWA interview, and doing some pro bono work for a priest or something. So his heart was in the work, and that had challenges for us sometimes, because I remember that he would get the flu, or his back would always go out around Christmas, and it wasn't fun because he was sometimes worried about money, or like we would go on vacation, but he was stressed that when he returned to his firm, like, what if the client sued him, or what if, and he was so ethical, like it never happened, but these were his fears. And so I decided, I mean, you can see what I like talk about in the Roman interview for that story, but when he passed away and I decided to start my firm, I knew that especially as a single mom with two little toddler and a preschooler at that point, like I didn't have the luxury of doing it that way. And even though I wanted to like go to the border and protest and like help kids, and I took on a bunch of pro bono removal defense cases. Like, I have an individual trial coming up for a guy who I got undeported up at the Ninth Circuit a few years ago. So I love that work, but I needed to think about my kids and myself. And I hear from immigration lawyers that are like, they have their own practice, they're well respected, they're obviously brilliant lawyers. And I'm like, okay, what's your financial goal? Like, could you deal with making 150K or 200K next year in your own practice? And they're like, I would be happy to make 70K. Yeah. Like, all right, like, let's figure this out, because we got to make this firm work for your life as well.
Is a super underpaid area of law. Which, on the other end, if you're good at business, means you could do really well, because so many people are doing it wrong. I think a majority are probably doing it wrong financially. And then, you know, when you do that many different types of practice areas, like your dad was doing on full service, because I think you do it where you pick and choose now.
I kind of narrowed it down from a marketing angle, like who does marketing in law? But I was thinking, okay, who's my target audience? Tech professionals. Okay, what are their needs? Okay, they need, you know, and how are they going to stay here? Okay, here are all the ways.
It goes at you so many different directions if you do full service, and especially if you keep it like small. That's why I like narrowed it down to like investors and then marriage, and then now I'm mostly just marriage, because like just figuring out the L1s and the E2s were taking so much to deal with the embassy and this and that, and being a full solo, like it was. I'm gonna hire this year. I'm eventually gonna change it, but you can't go to court and do that. Just personally.
It's so much, once you have that narrow focus, it's so much easier to optimize, because if you're doing I-45s and I-130s all day long, you could build your own computer, whatever thing, Notion or Airtable, it doesn't even matter, but like walk people through it in an elegant experience. And like Claire Corrado in Indiana has like a love-based immigration firm with like I-601A waivers from her personal experience, a really compelling story. I love brainstorming with people about starting their law firms. So anybody feel free to reach out. I would love to support you. But one woman was talking to me and I was like, well, what do you really want to do? She's like, I want to be an indie rock musician. I'm like, okay, but you're in law school and you want to be an immigration lawyer? She's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, okay, how about you're like the O1B lawyer for indie rock musicians? And then after COVID, your biz dev is going to every international concert of your favorite bands, hanging out backstage and passing out your business card and bringing them all to the US for their tours. So much fun, right? We could do anything we want.
Yeah, it's so open-ended. It's every type of client, every type of lifestyle. Immigration law is just spectacular. I wouldn't practice any other thing if it wasn't for this. I'm really lucky I found it unexpectedly too. But it's such a pleasure. So I know you're a busy person, so I don't want to keep you lean, but love to have you back on. What's the best way for people to contact you and social media?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, you can find me. Also, our website is alcorn.law, and you can always just email me, immigration lawyers. It's Sophie at alcorn.law. So just let me know. I would love to support you.
Awesome. We'll have that in the show notes. And Sophie, it's Sophie. I know there's different ways maybe to spell it.
Actually, don't put that in the show notes because then anybody can find it. But if you're listening, I know you're dedicated. Okay. Show notes at hello@alcorn.law.
Wonderful. I'll do the one that's on the website, the general one. Cool. Well, thank you so much. Stay on the line. We'll just talk for chat a little bit longer, but that's it for today. Thank you all for listening. I really enjoyed. I learned a lot myself, so I'm sure you all have as well.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you for listening to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. The Immigration Lawyers Podcast is a part of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, a training and marketing program for immigration lawyers. For more information about that, please email us at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Also, you can find more information and updates on the LinkedIn page for the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, as well as a private Facebook group for practicing immigration lawyers. You can email me for information about that as well. And also the Twitter page is a great place for updates. Until next one, have a good one.